Let's jump into this first story and talk about the world is changing so quickly.
Yep.
Elon Musk acquires 9.2% stake in Twitter. The world's richest man is now the social media giant's largest shareholder. My understanding is that he's also the largest. He has the largest vote. He's bigger than Vanguard, I think. Whatever other company.
BlackRock? Yeah, I thought it was BlackRock.
Is it BlackRock?
Yeah, I thought.
Maybe, yeah. Timcast.com writes, on Monday, a filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission revealed that Elon Musk has acquired a 9.2% stake in the social media giant. The move by Musk, reportedly the world's richest man, comes just weeks after he started criticizing the platform for its violations of free speech. His criticism was followed by a rumor that he might create a new competing platform similar to Twitter. The SEC filing shows that he purchased roughly 73.4 million shares in the company, making him the largest shareholder in Twitter. According to the Financial Times, Jack founder only holds 2.25% stake in Twitter. Musk has not spoken publicly about the acquisition, previously indicated he wanted to see dramatic changes on Twitter, of course. He has a bunch of tweets. He says, I'm giving serious thought to this. He was tweeting about free speech, saying what should be done. I don't know if he can do anything. He conducted a poll on Twitter asking his followers if they think Twitter rigorously adheres to the principles of free speech. He noted that the consequences of the online poll would be significant. 70% of the 2 million Twitter respondents said no. That's crazy. The first few months of new Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal's tenure have validated some concerns his leadership would reduce free expression. Since Agrawal took the position at Twitter, the site permabanned one of the accounts of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene for allegedly violating its COVID-19 misinformation policy. And then, of course, she heavily criticized them. Recently, former New York Times reporter Alex Berenson sued Twitter over his ban in August 2020. Oh, wow. And then we also have an editor's note, full correction. Initial reporting said 9.7. There were a few outlets said 9.7. It was 9.2. The big question, ladies and gentlemen, does this matter? I feel very tired and bored by these conversations about Twitter and, I mean, you got fired over Twitter, so maybe it matters. No, maybe it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, Twitter didn't fire me, so, I mean, technically it doesn't matter, but I don't know. We keep hearing these stories coming out about how like so-and-so starting a new social media company and this is finally going to change things. And I just feel always disappointed. Like I'm super black-pilled about just the general idea of social media, not just because of censorship reasons, but because of the effect that it's having on our, societal interactions and the way kids are raised and all of these different things, social media addiction. I don't know how much power this actually gives Elon Musk. I've seen people smarter than I say that quite a lot, apparently. I hope that it changes. I guess I'm just generally pessimistic about the state of social media in general. And I don't even know if Twitter's really worth saving at this point, because you have to change not just the policies in terms of, the vaccine misinformation you weren't allowed to say for a while there, that if you had the vaccine that you could still get COVID, you could still spread COVID and really stupid things like that. But there's also a lot of algorithmic issues in terms of how they decide what content gets promoted, what content gets shadow banned and things like that. So there's so many things that need to change across the board to make this a better platform. And I mean, hopefully Elon Musk is the guy to help do it. But again, I don't have high hopes for anything regarding Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever.
Some people are saying that he does get substantial voting power and he can move to make himself a board member. And then as a board member, he can make some real changes.
He's charismatic too. Yeah, you need to be on the board. Well, maybe be on the board. So Vanguard owns 8.39%. At least this is from CNN. So he is the largest stakeholder now. The thing is, so you want to talk about changing the terms of service to make it a free speech network. You could base it out of like Connecticut, and then you have to adhere to state law, corporate law. But then the thing is, the NSA can come in and say, hey, we don't like that guy, shut his account down, and you're not allowed to tell anyone, here's a gag order. And then they have to, because they have the data. If you don't know who the people are and you don't have their data, the CIA can't come and take it from you. I use CIA and NSA interchangeably. It's crazy. I think really, honestly, forcing companies to change their terms of service is a big ask, and it feels very fascist to use political force to make a private company do something like that. I think that free speech on the internet is a different kind of free speech, and that it's more about the code. Because if it's spying on you and you don't know, you're not really free. If you're constantly being watched and sold out behind, or possibly.
Or a better question is, if the algorithms are hidden and people are being shadow banned and silenced without you knowing, then you're not in a fair system.
Yeah, you should know. The NSA came and they took that data, they shut that guy down. You should always know that stuff because you see it happen on the network.
Yeah, and a lot of times Twitter doesn't even tell people why they're being banned. I mean, they say sometimes you're being removed for this tweet and you have to delete it, otherwise you're not allowed, you have a suspension. But sometimes they don't really tell people, and then when inevitably usually conservative and independent media go up in arms about what's going on. They say, oh, it was just a mistake. Somebody inaccurately flagged this tweet for violating terms of service. And so they're really not transparent about even when people are violating things, what specific policy they're violating or which tweet was the violation. Sometimes they'll say that somebody was getting around a previous ban by creating new accounts, or that their email address has multiple accounts registered to it. And it all just seems like they're playing these games to try to get around actually enforcing their policies fairly across the board.
That's a good point. I think that if someone gets banned, if an account gets banned, that the ban reason should be on the blockchain for them for reference.
Yeah, but then what if they put bunk info on the blockchain? We'll take.
Then you should be able to appeal it, and then the appeal should be on the blockchain. You should be able to watch the process if it was.
That's true, because then you can see they lied. Because we check out this story. This is from a year ago. Twitter bans James O'Keefe of Project Veritas over fake account policy, suggesting that he was operating multiple accounts in an unsanctioned way. O'Keefe has already announced that he will sue the company for defamation, and that's legit. Because James was like, I didn't operate multiple accounts.
Yeah, and when you asked Twitter about this, because I've done this, I reached out to them about this exact issue, and I have a press contact at Twitter that claims to be from conservative world. So they're always like, oh, well, we'll put you, the conservative media journalist, to reach out to this person because they can be trusted because they used to work for a Republican or whatever. It's all BS. But I reach out to them about these types of issues all the time, of them claiming that people got banned for these account violations. And when you ask for evidence of it, what they tell you is, oh, well, it's a personnel issue or it's a company policy issue and we can't talk anymore about it. And even with James himself and other people who have had this happen to them, they won't talk about it with them either. So how are you supposed to get any accountability when they keep doing this to people?
I understand.
I wonder where James is with this lawsuit. Because, I mean, they banned him and then outright made a statement about something he did that he didn't do.
Yeah, with no evidence.
And so he can easily just say to a judge, like, Your Honor, I didn't operate multiple accounts. They claimed I did. That's defamation. The judge is, I have to imagine he's going to be like, okay, let's go to discovery and easily determine whether or not he was or wasn't.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The other problem with Twitter in particular is that they have this sort of woke corporate structure where they're hiring these kids who are on college campuses, like protesting against speakers and shutting people down. Those are the people that are getting hired at the big tech companies, and those are the ones that are actually in charge of enforcing the terms of service. So you already have the biased algorithms, and then you have an extra layer of bias with the people who are in charge of actually enforcing the policies. And so it's really no wonder that things like this happen. So if Elon's going to get in here, he has to basically go through the entire payroll of Twitter and try to root out some of these people who are acting as activists as opposed to people who are trying to fairly enforce terms of service.
That's another reason why blockchain administration would be good, because if you have a bunch of miscalculations of bans that weren't right, you'd be like, oh, it was on December 23rd. Who was adminning on December 23rd at 4 p.m.? It's all accountable. These corporations may want to hide that from the public because they want to protect their employees, and I get that to a point. But also the public, when it's in the commons, the public deserves, I believe, the control of the system and knowing who's screwing with the system. This is the commons. I think Elon also sees this as the commons.
I was listening to something about TikTok, and some young TikToker was like, oh yeah, Twitter's dumb. It's just for like politics. No one cares. And I think that's a fair assessment too. Many of us are on Twitter because it's a political social network. That's what it is. It's politics and journalism. Everything else is like, what's the point? You're going to go there and follow, Brad Pitt for whatever reason or whatever, celebrate. Not really. You're not. And that's why even the New York Times gets no interaction on any of their tweets. The real point of Twitter is to go on and be mean to people and emotionally destroy them.
Well,
the second reason is to talk about news, politics, and social issues.
You can also message people directly, which is pretty cool. Like I sent Jordan a message yesterday. I've never met him before, but
Peterson.
Yeah, Peterson.
Oh yeah, Jordan Peterson.
Like, I disagree with your third of your 40-second rules, dude. Your third one talks about always being honest. Sometimes laws are bad and you can't be honest about it. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
But yeah, I wonder if Twitter just becomes irrelevant in 10 years.
It very well could. I mean, there's always this phrase that people throw out, right? Twitter's not real life. And it's 100% true. I mean, I'm like a Twitter obsessed fool, and I go out and I talk to my friends or my family back home about this stupid tweet I saw, and they have no idea what I'm talking about, or some manufactured controversy that left-wing activists on Twitter are all up in arms about. And again, nobody who even people who like consume Fox News or CNN incessantly don't really know what's going on Twitter unless they are actively on there for multiple hours a day.
But Twitter does have a huge impact on policy.
It does.
So it's almost like the forefront of thought in a lot of ways when it comes to politics and journalism. You'll get someone like David Hogg had a tweet, which is really important. It is. Because seeing his internal monologue, his inner monologue, is important to understand that you shouldn't listen to his advice on anything.
Right.
When he tweeted, "You need what did he say? You need a license to kill deer. Why don't you need a license to kill humans?"
Yeah.
As if to imply you're allowed to, or like you could go to the government and be like, "I would like to kill people." Like, well, here's your license to kill, sir. Like, you can't kill people.
You fill out your...
Like, they're only extenuating circumstances. You're defending yourself, or you're in war or something. But normally, these activists and high-profile individuals would go through several filters before that message would actually get out. Now, because of Twitter, people are just thinking things and then tweeting it.
Right.
I take advantage of that and just tweet things that I know are intentionally ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then it's weird. You know what I think works for the left is that most of the leftists know my tweets tend to be nonsense, but they know their followers don't. So they're like, I can retweet this guy, and even though I know it's sarcasm or something or silliness or trolling, but everyone else take it seriously. But anyway, I digress. The point is, AOC talks about the Green New Deal. These politicians talk about policy positions and plans, and they manifest on Twitter. Antifa organizes rallies on Twitter. So sure, you can be one of these older guys on Fox News having no idea what's going on, and then one day you look out your window and there's a guy throwing a Molotov cocktail, at your building, and you're like, why is that happening? Well, look at Twitter. They were talking about it for the past 3 days.
There was a shift in, I don't know if it was 2013, 2012. All of a sudden, CNN started getting screenshots of tweets. Like I was from the pre-internet age, before social media, and then I would make a bunch of YouTube videos. And then all of a sudden, it was like, it's a big deal to get mentioned on TV. Then all of a sudden, the news is no longer on CNN. The news is on Twitter. CNN's referencing Twitter. Tweets.
Yeah.
They're referencing tweets on CNN.
Yeah, and isn't
That's
that
funny.
the problem is Twitter only has as much value and power as we assign to it, and media companies in particular have assigned a lot of value to what people say on Twitter, whether negative or positive. They will pull up random accounts with like 30 followers and be screenshotting their tweets and putting them on a primetime cable news program as if this is like a serious person with real thoughts that matter in the public square. And it's gotten to this point now where I think you're right that Twitter is setting a lot of policy. I mean, I would love to know, for example, where like the "Don't Say Gay" moniker came from. I wouldn't be surprised if that came from some left-wing Twitter account.
Some like 12-year-old.
Yeah.
That's the funniest thing about CNN putting tweets on TV is that it's probably some 12-year-old kid who, tweeted having no idea. This is actually a really important point. On Twitter, you don't know you're arguing with a 14-year-old. The dude who got Harry's razors to dump Daily Wire claims to have been in high school. I wouldn't doubt it. And so just think about how insane that is. That some high school kid desperate for attention or to like have an impact because it's trolling, right? You want to feel your pressure or your presence on the world. Sees a story, takes their account, and it'll be called like Bro Dude 54, and they tweet, "I think Joe Biden is the greatest president and Donald Trump was bad because he was racist." And then CNN's like, "Here's a tweet from someone who matters," and it's like it's just some 12-year-old kid who has no idea what he's talking about. I knew a dude who gave a fake interview to a local. There was a plane crash in Chicago. And this dude ran there afterwards and then told the journalists that he had seen it. He's like, "Oh, yeah. He's like, I was here when it happened." And they said, "What happened?" And he just made a story up because he wanted to be on TV. Now, he was an adult at the time. But imagine a 12-year-old. They'd be like, I don't know, where your parents. So you can be 12. Go on Twitter. Say Joe Biden's economic plan is destabilizing this country. And then a network will be like, we should put that tweet up and show people. When you're getting your opinions from a random assortment, it could be children who have no idea what they're talking about. And that's probably true a lot for the left because the Democrats tend to have a lot more younger people. So imagine just all of these conservatives on Twitter arguing with people, and it's like a 56-year-old guy arguing with a 14-year-old. Just don't do it.
Don't argue.
Don't.
Not in text.
It's never good.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.